Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. It is Monday, and it is more grumpier than ever, probably. So we'll have a lot of grumpiness going on this morning. And Mateusz's with us. What's up? Grumpy in many other different ways.
In more ways than one. Yeah, and I'm looking out the window right now, and there's fucking snow
What?
coming down. Yes. I know you're a couple
I mean,
hours
you are
away.
a couple of hours away.
It may not be there yet. But there is, okay, it's like a dusting, but still, it's snow. What the fuck?
Really? Because I thought it was supposed to warm up later this. I thought it was all 50s and stuff like that. I didn't. I did let the dogs out, but usually open door, closed door. If it was flurries or anything, I didn't even catch it. I just made the coffee and came back upstairs. But I did let the dogs back in for those. Before you guys get concerned that they're out in the snow or something, I did let them back in before I came back inside. But yikes! But I mean, obviously, we're seeing you in this time. You had to wrestle with some computer issues, which is never it's like the most, like, that's the thing with technology, right? It is so freaking awesome, but it can be so freaking frustrating because you just don't, like, what is your problem? Like, what is not happening? It can get ridiculous.
What is your malfunction? Yeah, it's usually, it ends up being an easy fix that you kind of all along, you're like, well, duh. But it doesn't ever feel that way in the moment. So yeah, we're gonna see what's gonna happen. If not, then I might be upgrading something.
What the good news with that is, we might end up, now that FIFA is giving it away, we might do some FIFA content now for the Patreon thing. So
I bought it. I did buy it.
And you did buy it.
And I was playing it yesterday, and the computer crashed, and that's what had me inspired me to do a reset. And so that's where
famous last words.
FIFA ultimately was the beginning of my downfall. So as always.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those where, like I say, it's usually something really freaking easy, but you can't see it because, obviously both of us, it's not our expertise. I don't even know what the hell our expertise is, to be fair, but definitely this isn't, right? So, you freaking try to figure it out. And then sometimes you feel like a genius. You're like, it was this. And then it's like, oh, shit, it's not.
And you feel like
he still has FIFA 22. FIFA 22. Which, mind you, yes, it's not FIFA anymore. It's FC 24 or whatever.
That was the one with Mbappe on the cover, right? I think.
Was that 23? I thought that was 23.
Oh, maybe it was. I don't remember what 22 was.
Yeah, I mean, honest, they're all pretty much the same.
I can't look it up because I don't have an extra fucking screen.
But yes, this should give you an excellent excuse because once this computer issue gets fixed, I'm sure to buy current games every year, says right. I'll be honest, there are probably a couple of games that I hang on to. Hey, you know what? You made it when you get some haters to come in and like talk crap, some like United fans. So let's talk about that game, right? I had like a very weird and unique experience with that entire game. So I'll let you start. How do you kind of process that game yesterday?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. I think ultimately we have been, and I think I've said this many times, right? We have been very spoiled as fans the last 6 years, in the sense that seasons where you don't lose games are not the norm, right? It happened to be the norm recently because that was what the competition needed. We needed to be as good as we were to go up against the likes of City. So with all that being said, I know that there's going to be losses in the season. I think this morning, I feel a lot better than I did. I feel a lot better this morning than I did last week after the City game. Because I feel like this was one of the last games that you could lose and still potentially have a decent enough season. I know people will argue between the FA Cup and the Europa, which one's more important. So I guess depending on which side of the fence you're sitting on there, that will kind of dictate how you feel more about this. I think the way that the team lost was frustrating. Obviously, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think there were so many chances to kill the game. I think there was a disconnect up top. I think there was just a sense of no sense of urgency in a way. But these guys have overperformed too, right? We've talked about that they've overperformed with the injuries that we've had, with how tired everyone must be. Like it's going to happen. The wheels have to come off at some point. And if we're going to lose one of the games at Old Trafford in these 2 weeks, I would have preferred it be this one than the one in the Premier League.
That makes sense. That's like a nice pragmatic approach to it, I guess. Ryan says most mad about Klopp's. Yeah, I mean, the whole Mo ordeal, playing 90 minutes of a bullshit game that were up 15 minutes. He didn't play, most of the City game. Then he couldn't play the whole game. Yeah, that was kind of like weird. And I know he talked about it, but he's like, he talked about this. I understand he talked about this, but I didn't even know why he was waiting till that late to take him out in the first place in that game, to be honest with you. I thought a lot of those subs could have been done at halftime. So like the whole, the McConnell injury, we didn't expect the injury and stuff. I understand that part, but I just didn't understand why, especially him, of all people, were not protected. Why we played that many people in the first place, because we talked about it on Thursday in the pre-match show and the post-match show, that we didn't expect such a strong lineup going against that game, which was, I mean, pretty much a friendly. And I think, looking back at it, even you could have still played like, mostly kids and got away with it. Can't get angry with any players, not even Gakpo, frustrating loss. But if we're going to lose, better than Ronald McDonald Cup down. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, I understand what you're saying. I know it's a conversation for some people. But I mean, is it for you like FA Cup, Europa? I wouldn't even like think about it. I would say Europa just because it's a European trophy.
Yeah, I mean, given especially the situation with Klopp losing the Europa League final, the first year he was here, early on, and having that be the one trophy he hasn't won yet, and having won the FA Cup recently, I think that helps soften the blow of getting knocked out of the FA Cup. But I mean, to call it a Ronald McDonald Cup, if we were in it and we won it, we would not be calling it that. I think it's always funny to see that when other teams win the FA or the Carabao, like, yeah, whatever. It's just the whatever cup. But then when your team wins it, suddenly, it's a really big thing. You add a tally to your record, and then you boast about how many trophies you have, right? So I think the most, out of the entire Klopp experience, I think the most disappointing thing that we'll look back on is his FA Cup record. I don't care that we didn't win the FA Cup several times. I care that we barely got out of the finals, I think, only once. And that was when
I think they said something won. Like in the 9 years or whatever, he's only been to the quarterfinals. I think he said twice. Like this was twice. Like before.
This was the second. This was the second time. Yes. Yeah. And the other time was when they won the FA Cup. So I think that's going to be the most disappointing thing looking back on it, is just that record overall. But I agree with Serzi, especially when it comes to online. You really see the terrible toxic fan behavior when it comes to players posting and then seeing the comments in their Instagrams or whatever the case might be, because it's just that kind of stuff is just completely uncalled for.
Oh, you don't know what's uncalled for. We're going to get there in a little second over here, because when I tell you about my Sunday experience, it's only going to get. But I mean, I don't know if some of you guys actually did see it online, because this is the only way the Turkish league becomes famous in the world. Sparky says it's not the losing, it's the lack of effort by some of the team. Should always play with passion or for the badge. And I don't even know. That's what I think, like a little bit ago on Discord, I was telling like Barak, it wasn't the losing, it was the way we lost. And I don't think it was lack of effort. It's like brain farts by the team is the best way I can explain it. Like some decisions that are being made, they're like, what the hell is going on? Like Nunez's decision, Dan Elliott's decision. It was just frustrating the way it's turned out. And you watch that second half, how you kind of dominate, and you could probably just cruise. it felt like the rest of that game. And then some of Klopp's decisions, like Ryan is saying, like the tide turning because of that, it's just the way it unfolded was more frustrating than anything else. You have the lead twice, and you only have to hang on for like 10 to 15 minutes, and you can't. And you can't because you're being stupid. Like you're just like, hurting yourself with stupid mistakes. Like what Nunes is trying to do there is beyond me. What Elliot and Endo, mostly Elliot, is trying to do there is beyond me. Like I understand, but that's not the time. I don't know if they thought, if this ball is cleared, the game is over kind of thing, but we were nowhere near it. I can understand. I think Ryan was saying like, trying to score in an extra time in the fake up while leading is dumb. I can understand. Yeah, that's another thing, but you got to attack. I understand that that's our mentality, but we were holding the ball. We were controlling the pace and stuff, even in the second half, and even in overtime, it felt like we could do it. I think that to me is the most frustrating part, and the fact that it's United, of course, and I have to listen to my brother. But I mean, I think that the more than what we lost is like how we lost. Like we lost it by ourselves. It almost felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had commented on the Discord yesterday, something along the lines of, 4 or 5 years ago, every counterattack we had, we felt like we were going to score. Like it was almost inevitable, right? And now it feels like I'd much rather not have a 4-on-2 or a 5-on-2 counterattack because it's just going to end in a bit of disappointment. I think those were the moments, especially when we look back and talk about how frustrating it was to just not capitalize. Yes, there were terrible, silly mistakes from Nunez and Elliott, but just not capitalizing in those moments when you had every chance to makes it even that more frustrating. And I don't want to say that I wasn't, because I was pretty upset during the game, especially, and then right after. Obviously, I know you've got a different situation with your brother, and then the Fenerbahce game. I think there was some stuff going on there that probably didn't help anything. So I can understand that side of it, and it's just I think ultimately frustration is the best word. I had a stupid moment where it was early in the game and they showed Diallo and he was wearing the wristband and it was orange, white, and green. And I was like, oh, he's for St. Patrick's Day. He's, how that's kind of cute. Like how cool would that be if he did something? I forgot that he's Ivorian, so that's their colors as well. I wasn't thinking he's Irish, but I thought that he was doing something for St. Patty's Day, and then he kind of, he was the reason that I was upset the rest of Sunday. So it is what it is.
See, the oddball thing is, so yeah, watching the game, the Fenerbahce game was going to kick off right after the Liverpool game. Like when it was over, I was going to be able to hop on post-match and then start watching the game. So obviously, as we go to overtime, the Fenerbahce game starts. It's a ridiculously tough away game. Their crowd always causes issues. They always have it out for. Fenerbahce is like the Liverpool or United of the Turkish league in that way, where everybody wants to beat you regardless of where you're at in the league, what you're doing in the league. It's like the team that everybody loves to hate and aim at or whatever. So that game starts at the same time, and in one moment I was on top of the world because as Elliott scored in our game, so I'm literally pacing the room. Like I think I paced the entire room the second half anyway. Like I'm standing up watching, like we're all pacing the room. Let's put it this way. To the point where usually these two gets tired after a while. They're like, you know what? He's just gonna pace. Let's get out of the way and sit on the couch till the goal happens. But so Elliott scores. I swear I gave him the snacks. Approximately 10 seconds later, Fred, by the way, from United, scores like a worldie. It was like very similar to Ox's goal against City, just like a rocket, right? So I'm like on top of the world. I'm like, oh, this just cannot get any better. And then it started going south. And so the Liverpool game ends, and like very livid overall about like the mistakes and stuff like that. And Fenerbahce was up at like 2-0 at halftime. I do the post match with Gali and Maka. And then come back to watch the game, and it's ridiculous. There's water bottles being thrown, like all kinds of shit being thrown onto the pitch and stuff like that. And then, obviously, when you can't play because you're kind of passing around plastic bottles instead of players, or as well as the players, kind of a thing, it becomes a little trickier. They couldn't even use that wing. How this game is still going on is a utter comedy of like the Turkish Soccer Federation. But anyway, they keep playing. A goalie error, 2-1. Suddenly, another penalty. It becomes 2-2. Fenerbahce takes the lead. Batshuayi actually scores in the 87th minute. So Fenerbahce wins. So after they win, they come to the middle of the field, and as they're celebrating, and I know when I saw it, I even told Angie, well, they're really rubbing this in. And they were, because when you get water thrown, the goalie got hit with like a coin or something. He was bleeding from his chin because he was injured inside the goal, and from the back of the goal they hit him with something. And I think when you win in a circumstance like that, you kind of want to celebrate and rub it in their faces. And Fenerbahce is full of like international players. I don't think any of them would expect to have something happen after the game, right? The game is over, we're done, we're going home now, let's celebrate and stuff. Well, a bunch of people invaded the pitch, attacked the players because they were in the center of the pitch celebrating. So obviously the players are going to protect themselves, punches being thrown, the students attacking them and stuff like that. That was in an odd way. And then we do the post-match with my brother for Fenerbahce games. And I honestly, it almost made me appreciate the loss, because I felt that's more soccer and sports. I didn't even know what the hell this is watching the Fenerbahce game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It just was like an odds ordeal. It's just, I don't know what the hell that was, first of all. And they're still like, they were like, of course, Fenerbahce gets blamed for celebrating. You should be able to celebrate when you win. And mind you, this reverse fixture, they won in Istanbul. I think it was like Fenerbahce had like a huge winning streak at home. And then they danced and threw the goalie up in the air and stuff like that in there, because I think we missed the PK or something. And nothing happened. But then this happens, and they're like, oh, you guys should probably not antagonize the crowd by celebrating in midfield and stuff. Are you freaking serious? But I went back and I was telling my brother, like, obviously he's a United fan. To be fair to him, he didn't rub it in a lot, because I think he knows it was just like, he said, just such an enjoyable game to watch. Despite he's not watching with as much stress as I am, because their expectations are really low. Like, this is like, right. If it happens, it happens. But I mean, overall, I guess if you're watching it like that, it was a very fun game, because it was extremely more open than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and seeing a lot of comments from neutrals online, they were so glad with how open it was, and it was just a good game overall. And then you had some United fans who were being just brutally honest with their team and our team and saying, look, they might have gotten a bit lucky because they probably played the worst Liverpool team in the last 3 months, potentially. It's just, It's one of those things where you take what you can get from game to game. This was the most important game up until this point left in their season, right? The next most important game now will most likely be us again in the league, and then Coventry City would probably be the one after that, because this is what they have left to play for, right? So it is nice to appreciate at the end of the day. This is the rivalry between the two clubs, and we always, not always, but I think recently we've gone into it thinking that it's going to be a smooth, easy ride. The 5-0, the 4-0, the 7-0, it helps that thinking. But we sometimes forget that this is still, this is a massive rivalry, and the players were up for it for the most part on both sides. It just was a shame that ball just bounced a couple different ways. And if it wasn't for a few deflections, it might have been a worse loss. Might have not looked
I think we take that
good.
for granted, right? Like, the 2 goals are from like deflections. And this was their season. This is the only trophy they got going for themselves and really pushing for it. Despite that, you played against the United team that was all in, and like that second half, man, and we were controlling the game so well, and it should have been put away. I'm sure they'll say the same thing. When they were up 1-0, they had a couple of half chances where they just weren't like doing the final pass or anything, and that's what I was afraid of. I'm like, that's why I thought the first team to score would be important. And especially when you scored and then you scored again while they were down, that was the time to finish them off, and we didn't take advantage. Ryan says pacing and arguing with Gally, who decided to be contrary to everything I said. That's what Gally loves to do. That's Gally in a nutshell right there. Honestly, like on Discord, I can't do a lot of like game time. I'll occasionally hop in, like spill my guts and leave because I don't know what is my hamster in the router is running slower than everybody else or what. But I'm always like 15 seconds behind everybody. Like regardless of what app or what it is. Are you the same way?
No, so if it's on ESPN or Peacock, I'm usually around the same time. But if it's on, I use Fubo for the USA games. If it's on that, I'm 45 seconds behind. So I am not on Discord at all during those games because I know everyone's going to be saying whatever happens, and I'm going to sit here for the next minute going, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then at that point, I was like, well, what's the point? Because I know what's going to happen. So yeah, but it's some people. There's a fantasy Discord channel that I'm part of. That some people on there, I swear, are almost watching the games and being able to comment before anything happens. It's so weird. They're so ahead of everyone else. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're physically at every stadium. They're physically at every stadium or what, but it's wild. I don't have that luxury.
Yeah, I hate that because, I'll be watching the game. Somebody will be like, Gakpo. And then we're like, wait, what did he do? Did he miss? Did he score? Finish the sentence. And then
wait a minute.
It happens. Like,
he's just getting subbed on. What do you mean? What happened?
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think Sparky was mentioning it that I don't know where the comment went now, to be honest. Oh, there we go. Never want John to justify Gakpo is good enough. I am so mystified. Gakpo is like Van Dijk playing up top. Seems so casual. The thing I hate about Gakpo is he does this thing where you go to win a ball, right? But there are times where I feel like that's like a very young player error. Or player playing out of position error. I don't even know how to put it into words, but he like tries to put a foot on the ball, regardless of where the ball goes, and it usually goes in the wrong place. Kind of like their last goal, where we basically 3 of our players were trying to steal the ball and bounced off of it, and then became a counter. And obviously, our entire midfield was out of the equation because we were all there pressing, kind of a thing. Or so he'll always like tip the ball in the wrong way or the wrong angle because all he's trying to do is get a foot on it. It feels like he gets paid by the touch or something like that. But where are you at with Gakpo? Because I thought, especially when he first came in, we talked a lot about him being the closest thing to Bobby, and maybe it's a faster, bigger Bobby. How do we go from there to now here?
I don't know. And it's not that far removed from him scoring 2 absolute beauties against United, right? In that 7-0, he started it with that first goal when he cut inside, and then that little chip from the Mo pass. I think that was for number 3. I think it's frustrating because I do like Gakpo, and I think I don't know what it is right now, but there's something, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but it feels like you're saying in a way where he looks like Van Dijk, where he just kind of looks calm and it looks like there's not much going on. He just seems so chilled and relaxed.
Yeah, like no aggression.
Yeah, but it's different when you're Van Dijk and you're winning balls and you're playing well. Versus when you're Gakpo and you're not playing well, it looks different, even though you look similar in that sense. I think there were 2 or 3 moments yesterday where he could have made a pass. I think he was part of that 5-on-2 in the 70th minute that really broke down. That unfortunately that should have been the icing there. And I'm not giving up on Gakpo. I think a lot of the slander on him is a little excessive. I think people are upset, but to run to his Instagram and to call him a bunch of these names and tell him to never put on the kit again and all this stuff, like I don't like that as a fan. I don't think many people do really, but it's just the unfortunate thing of having of being a fan of a club this big. You're going to have a bunch of those internet trolls one way or another. But I think what he needs is, while we talk about him being the next Bobby, he's not playing like that. he's not playing like that anymore. But he could play like that. I think just maybe where he's being set up or how he's being told to play, it just isn't working with what he wants to do, and it almost feels like two differing ideas every time he touches the ball clash, and then he doesn't know which way to go, and then he kind of gets stuck, and then it's just a cycle.
Yeah, I mean, so just says Gakpo just looks lost. Which, yeah, I was saying the same thing in the post match. I feel like he's just so lost. Like wherever he's at, it's like he's playing the last game where he was in the other spot. He needs a break. I think he'll come good after the break. I think last year is a watershed moment for everyone. And Ryan says a year ago it was our best offensive player. You know, the fans chirping they'll win the FA Cup and we only win the League Cup. They'll have a better season than us. I mean, I don't know. I don't think
we already have a trophy.
I mean, that's something to. First of all, yeah, they got to win it, and I think they play City in the final, and that doesn't happen. But not only that, I think if you look at the end product, yeah, and I think that's United fans. United fans would love to be a Liverpool fan right now and support a team that plays like us and our team, as opposed to their team. So I think that's just United fans trying to justify their season and stuff like that. I think it's just like torturous to watch that team as a United fan. I can tell you directly from my brother, it's just like, where is this money going? What is this guy doing? Why do they even buy this guy and stuff like that? And yes, Gakpo has been pulled in so many different positions. I really think, and maybe like somebody has to pull him aside and explain him this, or maybe it didn't sit well with him. Let's face it, we were arguing in the beginning of the season who should start. That was a conversation, Gakpo or Nunez, right? Who should come off the bench or whatever. And I mean, I know I was on the Nunez off the bench group because I felt Gakpo does more interplay for one, and Nunez does some like really crazy stuff. And then everybody was like, but he's the agent of chaos. So suddenly Nunez starts getting the starts, even though I thought Gakpo was doing well starting. And I don't know if that kind of like, screwed him up a little bit. But at the same time, you look on the pitch, and regardless of what Nunez is doing, including the boneheads ball he gave away to basically force the game, I think his efforts off the ball kind of makes you forget all the bonehead things he might do on the ball, like the offside and stuff like that, the silly yellow cards he gets and stuff. And obviously he's been productive as well. I mean, the ball he sent to Mo yesterday was a beauty. So I feel like his passing, we see more of his passing every day. And I think he's a better duo with Mo, that's for sure. But I almost feel like Gakpo kind of got lost in that mix. Obviously, Jota gained form, so you had to make a room for him. And then he was like, well, we got room on right wing. You want to play there? We got room in midfield. You want to play there? And I feel like he looks so freaking lost now.
Yeah, I guess almost in a way his versatility became his own Achilles heel, right? When you think about him being able to play in all these positions, it pulled him out and pulled him into different situations, like you're saying, and where he's not feeling as comfortable as he used to. And I think it's going to be a difficult. I'm not going to pretend to understand the psyche of a professional athlete, but we can understand that it can be a frustrating thing losing the starting job. We can kind of compare it in our own sense of having someone maybe that you worked with that got a promotion over you, whatever the case might be. But then from that, it's really telling to see, are you going to put more work in, or are you going to sit back now?
Yeah.
And it felt like since the kind of the pieces have settled a bit and Gakpo hasn't really earned that starting job, that he isn't going to work for it. And we don't know what goes on in training, right? He might be trying a lot more than we see on the pitch during the game. But if there's anything to take away from the effort level on the pitch, especially when you have the fresh legs coming in and it looks like you don't have any fresh legs coming in, then that's the thing that I think Liverpool fans hate the most, is just the lack of effort. I mean, we just want to see someone just running their heads off. Like Robertson running at the entire City defense back in 2017, 2018, whatever that was. That was the moment everyone fell in love with him, right? I mean, maybe a little bit before that already, but it was like, this is what we like to see as fans. And, you could have some really great finishes and be able to score a few goals. But if it looks like you're disinterested most of the time, what's the point?
Yeah, Miss Sparky says does get confidence to put effort in. And I think that's the thing, right? There are times where you play out of position or things are not going well, and the only thing you can do is like there are games where like nothing you do works, man. Like every pass is like you're like, what the hell is going on today, kind of a thing. But the least you can do in those moments is put the effort in, put a tackle in, because that's gonna go one way or the other. In most cases, worst case scenario, you would commit a foul or something like that if your tackle doesn't go well. But at least you can put in the effort. I know some of it is his demeanor, but I think, yeah, like yesterday there were too many over the top reactions to players like Gakpo and Diaz and stuff like that, who had another like a nightmarish decision making and touch and stuff like that in the final third. I think that's one of the biggest reasons, to be honest with you. Gakpo and Diaz, when we entered the final third on those counters, we were in 4-on-2, 5-on-2. It's just the runs not being made or the movements. It's just not clicking. The first touches being slightly off. At this pace of the game, it has to be dead on. At this level, it has to be dead on. But I think, yeah, like some of the reactions are like way over the top, I thought. But now when we're up to 10 minutes, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Exactly. It just doesn't make sense for him to. And that's the problem. Like he was in that middle. I'm pretty sure I got to go back and watch it. But when we lost that ball in midfield, I'm pretty sure he was one of those players that did the bad touch. And then suddenly 3 players were out of position and they came and scored. I think that was their 3rd goal, I want to say. And then the 4th goal, obviously, was Elliot's gift. But international break coming a good time? Go ahead.
Yeah, I hope so. No, I was going to say, I think the fact that Gerald Kwanzaa had a better offensive game than most of our forwards says a lot about about the end product yesterday.
Yes, I think so
that's
too.
Pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, actually. He had a great game. Obviously, the first goal is just a miscommunication of who's going to cover the one behind. They both got ball watching with Gomez there. And that can happen when, dudes don't play together for a while or, just miscommunication. But overall, I don't think, again, you would think when you get 4 goals scored on, you would put a lot of it on D, but I can't really put a lot on like defense in this game at all. But international break, as I was saying, like, does it come in a perfect time? Is this the first time in a long time that we're like, yay, international break?
I guess it depends on how much our international players will play, because if you just had Endo and McAllister play 120 and then you had both of them play pretty much 180 the week before that. And so having them then go on a break and then playing for their countries, because Endo's going to play all 90 for his country. But he's a machine, so I don't know, maybe everything will be fine. But I think it comes at a good time because we need something injected into the squad. We need just some sort of just a new face to be able to come back. And I think that'll be inspiring enough. I just hope that the players who will be playing are not run to the ground, because, if they have to play 90 or 70 or 80, whatever the case might be, for a couple of games, it's not really a break at all for them, especially. So I guess it'll depend on the outcomes of the games there. But I think overall, as a team, yes, this is one of the few times where we're happy that there is an international break now.
I think I know Sergi. I always take Sergi's breaking news with a grain of salt because he runs with headlines. But I honestly think, especially for the second game, there's going to be a lot of I think they're pretty much all playing 2 games. Like all these national teams are playing 2 games. I know like Turkey is playing Friday, Tuesday, or something like that. I mean, I was even telling my brother, I'm assuming after the Friday game, there's going to be a lot of knocks and hurts and stuff like that, because these are pretty much meaningless games in some ways. And all these guys are, I mean, aside from a couple of leagues, and I don't think Turkey has anybody playing in France right now, but, aside from a couple of leagues, they're all in like tight races, either, promotion, relegation, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the minds are somewhere else. I mean, if anything, you can use it for team building, maybe, or if you're a new manager or something like that, establish some stuff. But I don't see a lot of players really going for it, except the ones who are maybe trying to win a squad spot for, like,
for this year.
for the summer.
Yeah.
Like, it's
No, that's. I
so.
think. Yeah, I think that's
Where's
fair.
Poland now? Did Poland make it at the end?
I'm going to not pretend, and I'm going to tell you I don't know. I don't think it's done yet. I don't think it's done yet. That's
let's see. Oh, that's what you guys are playing. You guys are playing Estonia to qualify, I think, is where we're at with this.
okay. So if they lose,
that's the game.
If they lose against Estonia, there is no hope for this country ever again. I think this is the make or break moment for the entire history of the football federation in Poland. Yeah, that's. I was trying to remember what it was that you're right.
So obviously everybody's going to be all gung ho for that one. Like I say, like the ones who qualified and guaranteed, they're kind of like playing friendlies. And I think there's a couple of important games. I know like Szoboszlai and Hungary are playing Turkey and stuff like that. It's just more like prepping more than anything else. But I don't think anybody, is going to be. I hope like there are no Wednesday games. Like when I saw Turkey's game on a Tuesday, I was like, good. Hopefully everybody's playing Tuesday. And that's what they should really do. But I guess that puts it a very short notice for the Thursday game if they did Thursday, Tuesday, or something like that. But it's the most worthless international break possible, except for Poland, says Ryan. I think honestly it is. But I am glad it's actually happening in some ways. International break, never a good time. Players flying everywhere, getting injured. See, I really think there's going to be a lot of guys saying like, my butt hurts, I'm a little sore. Diaz, groin injury, Nunez, hammy, Gakpo, ankle. I almost feel all these are mini excuses not to be involved in the national team because they know.
I was going to. Yeah, Klopp was telling, this was to the BBC, he said Luis Diaz felt his groin, Nunez felt his hamstring, although it is hopefully not bad, and adds that he thinks Cody Gakpo has twisted his ankle. So that those were the three lines there regarding those.
Yeah, things. I'm assuming this is going to be some kind of I don't know, his groin is not all good. He's going to stay behind, or when he goes over there, he's going to be on the sideline. While all these guys want to play for their national teams, I think they realize these games are kind of meaningless. They're going to play. And here's the thing, like Diaz is going to play for Colombia regardless. Nunez is going to play for Uruguay regardless. They're not like trying to earn roster spots or something like that where injured or not, I got to play kind of an ordeal. So like I worry more about a player like Gomez and stuff like that, for example, who's like fighting for a spot and will go in all in to play and will probably play a lot to get a look. Those are the players I worry about more. But hopefully after the national break, we should have Konate back. We should have Trent back. And one other player I'm forgetting.
Well, Gravenberch is back. He was on the bench at least, so he's sort of back, but he will be more back. And then
backer
than he was yesterday. And then probably Ali is late April, was it? And then
yes, and I think Jota is the same way. And really looking at yesterday, that's the guy I want back the most. I think Konate will be good for rotation, especially with the Europa games and stuff. But it's not like you looked at the game yesterday. I don't know. Did you look at the game yesterday and the point and said if Trent was out there or if Konate was out there, it would be different? Because I definitely did say if Jota was out there, it would be different. But that's the only player that would have made a difference to me, at least yesterday.
Yeah, because I think the difference you wanted to see was on the attacking side of the pitch. I think defensively, because of what was happening up top and in the midfield, especially in the beginning, I don't know if having Konate and or Trent would have made things better or worse back there. Probably would have been about the same, in my opinion, with how they conceded. So Jota would have made a huge difference. And just having someone of the quality of the finishing that he has, even whether he started, whether he came off the bench, or whether he was able to just play the extra time period, it would have been massive. But it is what it is, isn't it?
Forget about this. I'm amazed Sparky is not the one commenting saying Curtis Jones is going to be back and he'll slot himself right into the starting lineup. And I don't care what Sparky says. Really, yesterday I would have much rather have Curtis starts instead of Szoboszlai, and I don't care what Anand says, because maybe this international break will help Szoboszlai get back into it too, because he seems off. He's definitely not the same player earlier in the season. I mean, that press, that front four early in the game was all over the freaking place. It was just like, holy cow, does one guy know what the other guy is doing? Still saying Trent and Jota back on 4-7. I could have sworn that it said Trent was going to be back after the international break, and he might be an option for the Brighton game. So, and like I say, I don't see that as big of an issue, but I really worry about, Gomez and stuff like that going into international games. We don't want an injury over there. I mean, because when you lose Gomez, you lose the backup for like 3-4 different spots at the same time. Yeah. But it would be good to have those guys back. So let's cover this real quick, because this just literally came out that Forest got docked 4 points. So at this point, do they have a dartboard over there where they're like, 6 points? Dock him 6 points. I mean, I don't understand like how they're determining this. And here's the thing: if 10 goes down to 6, right? Isn't that what happened with Everton, or did it go down to 4?
Yep, went down to 6. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So is this like a bargaining point? We'll start at 4. We'll settle at 2. Because if you look at let me put that over here now. But I mean, that puts them in
under Luton.
Yes, and that's what makes that goal. Yes, wow. Why do I do this every week? That makes it 10 times worse. That late 89th minute goal that Luton scored becomes really goal now, because it kept this situation and puts Luton Town above them.
Yeah, that's I wonder, obviously with the appeal coming in, it has to get settled before the end of the season. So, I mean, I guess nothing has to happen, right? We've seen some examples of things not having to happen, but I wonder, at what point will we have the 100%? This is all of the points that are being docked, and go from there, because it's going to make it a very, very tight race to the end. And unfortunately, I mean, you could even throw Brentford in there at this point. I think between Luton, Forest, Everton, Brentford, those are your, Burnley and Sheffield. I think there's not much saving them now, unless the 4 above them get docked heavily for FFP. But the Brentford, Everton, Forest, Luton, that's going to be the race for the end for that very last spot.
Yeah, because Ryan says I think Luton is a better team right now. I think so, because if you look, I mean, you can kind of tell that. I mean, at least they score goals, especially at home. They're a lot better, and they can score goals. I mean, you look at their 42, and you see like Burnley and Sheffield over there and stuff. I mean, they scored more goals all the way up to the team that's up to the 12th, so they can score. But obviously, you see what they concede as well. But I think at home they're pretty darn dangerous, and they can make things happen. So that's what I was going to ask. Sparky's just randomly attacking people in the background there. So Everton's hearing starts tomorrow, and Everton, I just don't understand didn't the accusation come at the same time? How come they're like, well, hold on, let's take care of Forest first, and then we'll do the Everton hearing? Because like you said, it's very crucial that they do these in the same season, because otherwise Forest is going to be like, what the hell? Because Everton's is going to be the second offense, so you would think there's some kind of a multiplier for like your second offense in terms of the penalty they will get.
And if you're coming to me for answers for this, you're screwed, my friend, because I can barely talk about the things to talk about here, let alone FFP and the handlings of the points. I don't know anything I don't understand.
I don't even know if anybody
what's
knows
gonna
anything.
happen.
Like, I just don't understand how, because when they did 10, I think we all knew they're like, holy shit, they're screwed. But they'll probably, they'll appeal and they might get some of it back, which is what happened. So when I
Yeah.
see, like, automatically now, when I see the news that Forrest got 4, I'm thinking, okay, so like 2, because automatically you're kind of like making a ratio in your head. They're like, oh, he'll go to appeal. They'll like be like, oh, come on, man. And they'll be like 2 weeks, 2 games, like 2 points instead. But Everton, the fact that it's the second one, and I know there is the Leicester City thing coming up as well, which could be interesting, but you would think in the worst case scenario, they'd be in the playouts over there. Sparky says, I'm being reckless. Hey man, gotta promote the sponsors. What are you gonna do? But yeah, I mean, I think so. Does Everton get? So Sparky always roots for Everton to stay up. Like, what is gonna? I mean, they have to do it this year, one way or the other, though, don't they, to make things look even? Because if you're a Forest fan and it came out on the same day, and you get punished this season, get relegated, and Everton, starts next year with -8 points, you'd be livid.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's I guess, VAR isn't the only thing that's not being consistent, I guess, right? I mean, I guess it's too much to ask for to have the consistency across all the fronts. Yeah, dude, it's a tough one because what can you, unless there's some sort of specific reasoning for the justification of punishment X in year Y that they say, then what are we supposed to do when we hear of any of these deductions? Is it something that we just 115 points, or sorry, that's a weird number that just came in my head. But at what point do you look back and go, okay, this makes sense right now, or this doesn't make sense right now? I don't know. It's very weird, and it just doesn't make sense.
And I think that's a big reason, right? That's in the background. I mean, there's a clip on our YouTube channel. If you go to the panel show, and we're talking about this, and this is, I think when the Everton thing first came out, or maybe like when this Forest and Everton news came out. And I'm talking about, and Shay who represents Villa on the panel show, basically says, because I said, it's almost like you get pulled over for being, going 50 on a 45, and as you're pulled over there, you see City driving by with their Ferrari going like 100 miles an hour or 150 miles an hour, and you're like, hey, what the hell? And Shay basically said, hey, you're the guy they basically caught up to. And that's what it feels like. And I think that's why when I see these, while I want them kind of like clamping down on it, so the teams that are doing it the right way get the advantage for doing it the right way, it just kind of sucks to see that happening in the background with nothing being done, and almost makes me feel bad for these guys, even though we should not. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it makes sense, because it would make feeling bad for them a lot easier if, well, Sparky, it's about the integrity of the league, right? I mean, I think that's the most
not to
important
mention
thing.
Sparky cares himself. He's over here kind of like trying to make sure Everton stays up, so he's the last guy to talk.
Yeah. It's
because that's what Everton always are, right? The bottom third of the league.
Especially, I mean, the last decade or so, for sure. I don't even remember where I was going with that, other than the fact that you want to see it. You want to see it go from top to bottom, right? Because if we're in this cycle of the rich getting richer and not getting punished, then yeah, it's always going to suck. Especially as Liverpool fans, like the way we approach even our worldview, in a sense, is the complete opposite of that too, right? Like we don't want to see that. We want to see if that means, whatever that means for us, we want to see the fairness go throughout the rest of the league, which is why we care about the teams that are getting punished for doing it. But we also want to make sure that teams that are doing it, who have more money, are getting punished as well.
And I think maybe Sparky means, like, when he says who, he means about, the powers that be. When it's the third bottom of the league, they just like passing out punishments left and right and putting the stamp on everything. They're like, yep, you're banned. And then when it's like the guys on top, they're like, whoa, let's really look into this.
It's easier to look at the numbers when it's just a couple million than when it's a couple 100 million, probably, right?
So many zeros.
That's
I'm not
next
at
year's
Netflix.
job.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. That's probably what bugs me the most. And normally I would just say, Seriously, guys, right? For I mean, and honestly, the forest thing has to be. What the hell were you guys thinking? I mean, we
Oh
talked
yeah,
about it
we
back
saw it
then.
coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it back then. Like, how are they even doing this? More importantly, why are they even doing this? They signed like 42 guys or something crazy like that. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Without a shirt sponsor, there's no way they're getting money.
yeah, it was just like nuts. You should have seen the writing on the wall all along. And I know. And did you hear that their argument is when they sold, who's it, Brennan Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
They said they want that sale to kind of go in this because I was listening to something yesterday on it was actually a clip from the NBC Sports broadcast, but I think this Dave Ornstein maybe was explaining it, that they wanted that counted in this because they said the only reason they waited and they sold it out of that window is so they could get more money. I mean, okay, whose problem is that? Like, then you know what? Then you say, hey, I guess we got to sell it now because if you don't sell, we're gonna get freaking trashed. 115 points for City. I highly doubt it. That's just like, and the more that drags on, the worse it is. Nottingham for use Robin Hood as their attorney. Maybe he will take it from City and give it to Forest and stuff like that. But yeah, that's an ordeal that's happening, and there's going to be more coming. Obviously, if the Everton hearing started, Leicester City is incoming as well. But yeah, I wish they would just solve the City thing and just get this cloud over the top of the league, because you just ignoring it is not making it go away at this point. But so it is Monday. It's grooming day at the Matush household. Nobody's getting groomed.
No, thankfully, because maybe that gives me time to fix my entire life around this stupid technology situation.
Yes, you got to fix that so we can, because once you give me the green light that FIFA is good to go, we're going to jump on that as well. We're not going to play. And I have to say, Angie did put in a plead on your behalf, because I said we'll probably do like co-op or something like that. I'm like, there's the manager mode and we can do like co-op or something like that. And she was like, yes, please do co-op. Don't play against the poor kid. and I quote.
That's when you know it's bad. That's when you know.
Yeah. So yes. So she's on your side, supporting you mentally. I've ignored all my mental issues and I'm cool, boys. I mean, hey, we're all here one way or the other. I don't know how cool
this is. This is meant to be a coping session, right? This is a therapy session. This is what it's for. We're here for some laughs, and hopefully, being here for 50 plus minutes makes it better until you hear that Angie doesn't want Timochin to play against you because even she knows that he's going to destroy all of my confidence, and I'll end up like Cody Gakpo on FIFA and just kind of run in circles with one guy trying to waste time while Timochin's up 4-0 in the first half.
Yeah, I was like, hey, Matush, come out and play. And then he just said, no, not against you, only with you. So yes, I mean, Brian says, come to my AOL. Brian has it doesn't help when Brian lives in the middle of the woods next to the Unabomber over there. So I'm assuming that has to be one of the biggest issues, because Brian lives out all the way out in the middle of
more
nowhere.
than a few hours.
More than a few hours. Quite more than a few hours from civilization, I think, overall. That's always my worry. You see small town and stuff like that, but I really would worry that my internet would be shit when I go somewhere like that.
And I could not live without the internet.
I'm currently playing as Layla is my daughter, so I'm assuming is Legia Warsaw? Is Layla Warsaw?
Yeah,
right?
Layla's
yeah. I don't think she owns the club yet. Yeah, we will win Europa this year. So yeah, we can do manager mode, right? Mm-hmm. If you wanted to. And then we can do the co-op thing. The co-op thing should definitely be interesting, especially in the beginning. You can really take on some people, and then it gets pretty tricky. And you can always tell sometimes, like when one guy is like ridiculous, he's doing all these moves, and the other guy is trying to do moves, but he's not good, so he always loses the ball. Because sometimes, like actually, as a single player, you can match up with two people, and if they're both good, you're screwed. If they're communicating and they're actually good at it as a playing co-op, you get screwed. If they're not, those are the easiest games because you can just do 4 passes and just go around 8 guys at the same time because they're taking the guy, moving him out of position and stuff. 30 minutes away from a grocery store. Your DoorDash guys must love you.
I have a 5-minute walk to a grocery store.
Probably 10 minutes walk. I'm assuming by the time I get out of the goddamn subdivision, it'll be 10 minutes. So it's gonna be a while to get there. But so no grooming, a lot of technological work to get ready for FIFA. So if you have not signed for Patreon, do sign for it. All proceeds go to fixing Mateusz's computer.
Really?
No, not really. Well, I mean, it would take you a while to get that thing fixed. Cohen says if everything gets deducted 6 points for one charge. Yes, according to these calculations, yeah. I mean, you wish.
Well,
but
that's the problem, right? Because we were told that the minimum for force would be 6 points, and it comes out that it's 4 points to start with. So I don't even know where does the minimum begin? Like what I don't understand what that line is, right? Because if you say that 6 did force have half of a or 3/4 of a charge, then how does that make sense? I don't get it.
I understand every situation is different, but shouldn't there be? The Premier League loves creating some gray areas, and I think it's
not clear and obvious,
huh?
It's not clear and obvious. Yeah, it's by design because you can justify so much more if you make everything gray.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you can wiggle out of everything, and I think it is by design that it's not clear cut. They're like, they're different things and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, at the minimum, heck, I mean, like what based on Cohen is saying, even if you're making freaking 4 points for one charge, they should disappear for like a decade and then come back because that's just like. But I highly doubt it.
I would take 4 points off a City right now, please. Just 4. If it means it goes through for good, just take the 4 off now and fine. Let's just move on.
I mean, take the 4 off and then work on the other 114 later. Just
in
the back burner. Like just work on those later. I mean, that's the problem now. If you don't do it now, it's pointless. Like, you going back and saying, oh yeah, we're taking all those titles away and stuff. What's done is done. What's gone is gone. Nothing is going to be like going to spend the day playing Hitman. That's old school. Or is there a new one or something that I'm not aware of?
I don't know. But if it's the old school one, like it's a good choice right there, Sir Z.
I don't know. See, any game that Angie knows and she laughs instantly, like when we're watching a review or something, they're like stealth things, like, ugh, not really my forte. I just go guns blazing in, and that's not a good way to do Hitman from what I've experienced a couple of times. I've tried to play that game, but yeah. So join Patreon to see us game on like different things, and then like I say, the boys will be back tonight. I will not be joining them. I'll be out and about. In the Chicagoland, Milwaukee area. So I will not be on, but Gally and Bickler will be on 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. So do tune in for them. And I'm sure they'll talk a lot more about like the tactical stuff and all that. I didn't want to dive into too much tactical between the post-match. And yeah, this was more like the therapy session to look forward to. I'm sure they'll talk about it there. All my victims will be which actually in that game they do look like Anthony. But have a great week, everybody. International break is here, so at least there's not going to be any stress for a while. Let's take some time off, relax. We're not taking time off as AmericanScouser. There's a lot happening in the background. We kind of like take advantage of these periods where there are no games and pre's and post matches and stuff like that. But just take some time off, relax, and then join the gang tonight. I will be back myself Wednesday morning. I'll see you guys then. Have an excellent week, everybody. Take care. Bye.